Hey folks, Dust here, and it's that time of year again to do our pick'ems for the upcoming major. And of course, we are just about a week away from the kickoff of the Blast Austin major, the third major of CS2, and the first NA CS major in quite some time, certainly the first one for CS2. And yeah, so what is interesting about this pick'em, of course, that there is an additional stage this time around. There are 3 stages before the playoffs instead of your normal system that we've had in the past. And also with this system, they have kept the trend of no longer being able to kind of put your safe bets in the advanced column and putting risky bets in the 3-0 column. Because if you pick a favorite that does indeed wind up going 3-0, but you have placed them here, you get no credit for it. So that has also changed the strategy of how to play pick'ems these last few majors. And I've usually had a pretty good track record with these. You know, I've been on the verge of hitting the diamond coin the last 3 majors in a row. It has always just crumbled in front of me during the playoffs because obviously, you know, when it came to the Copenhagen major, didn't expect Navi to win the whole thing. That came out of nowhere. And so I wound up losing, I think, on the grand finals. It was the last game to get diamond coin, and I wound up losing it on the Navi win. And then I want to say the Shanghai major, I missed out on diamond because of the FaZe beating Vitality in the quarterfinals, I think was one of the ones that killed me on that one. And there was one other game, obviously, that killed me in that kind of ruined, because I thought Vitality would win the whole major, I think, at that point. I was just a little too early, because now they're, of course, fucking dominating everything. So I was just a little bit early on the Vitality train on that one. And so, yeah, I wound up getting burned. Also, no webcam for this. I couldn't get it to work. It kept freezing for some reason. All my shit's broken whenever I get back from events. I don't know what the hell happened. So you have to deal with the still image of me from Blast Rivals. I thought it was fitting because this was a Blast event. So, you know, there you go. Appreciate you, Blast, for having me for the Rivals event. Anyway, let's start talking through these teams. And I'll be honest with you, for this stage, it's tough because a lot of these teams I haven't really had much of an eye on because they haven't been involved in the tournaments that I've been working as an analyst. And so I'm kind of, you know, scraping the bottom of the barrel here. They have much information to inform my picks, but I'm trying my best. You know, bear with me, I guess, is really the only thing that I can say. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're starting off with Heroic as a 3-0, and it's because they're just really the only team that clearly looks like a favorite in the stage. I mean, let's be real. They just came off of a top 8 finish at the IM Dallas Major, beating Aurora and FaZe along the way, which Aurora has been hovering around kind of the top 5 to 8 category as a team, and with Heroic only being kind of ranked in the top 20. To see them get a win over Aurora on land's pretty good. They also beat FaZe, which, yeah, FaZe just got simple, and FaZe have had their struggles, but they still have some talented players. And, you know, Heroic is a team kind of on the come up, I guess you could say. So they did pretty good work there. They also won a smaller event out in Mongolia, that Mesa Nomadic Masters, where they beat the Chinggis Warriors, who were, of course, in this stage. They also beat GG Hao and Big to be able to get those wins. They also won a recent online event over some of the teams in this tournament, like Bait and Bet Boom and Wildcard, who were all in the stage. They were second in the European MRQ, beating Namiga, who's in this stage, as well as Ints and Power Vision. And they did have some experience from EPL as well, though they did kind of struggle there, to be honest. Tanier looks legit as fuck. Looks like a really good upcoming rifler, so they definitely have firepower. Sunpai, a solid opper. X-Cloud, solid aggressive rifler. Saul, obviously a very experienced coach. You do wonder how much the reports about Saul and Sunpai being on their way to G2 after this major can impact them, but it didn't seem to harm them too much at Dallas, where they placed top 8. So, you know, it can always go a bunch of different ways when you're in those situations, whether it relieves pressure or adds pressure or people are mentally checked out. But it seems like Heroic are trying to make the best of the situation, get as much as they can get done with what they've got, and so I'm definitely going to put them in the 3-0. There's certainly a chance they go 3-1 instead, or something like that. That is just the nature of an inferior format that majors have with these best of ones, but that's what we have to deal with. So, moving on. I feel like for the next 3-0, the top candidates for me are Complexity, Bait, and probably Bet Boom, if I'm being 100% honest with you. That's kind of where I'm at. I think Tyloo actually has a shout at that too, which I'll talk a little bit later. With Complexity, it's obviously because they had that big performance at Bucharest, at PGO. They came 4th, beat Aurora, beat FaZe. But then they got knocked out of Melbourne immediately, right afterwards, pretty quickly. But they played Mongols close, had a win over Pain, took a map off of Gamer Legion, some top 10-ish teams, so to speak, that they played against there. They've also done really well online. Grim's looking hot as fuck. I think the big problem for them is obviously they're missing Halzerk, so that's tough. So we don't know how well Junior's going to perform on LAN. I feel like sometimes he's been kind of flaky on LAN, to be honest with you, even though he's always been, similar to Osty, one of the more dominant oppers in the North American region that's actually from North America. But he's had his issues. They're also just embedding Adren as a coach. So, I know they're not boot camping as well. They're practicing online. So I just don't know how well prepared they're going to be with Junior, with Adren at the coach. Losing Halzerk, who was their next best fragger, in my opinion, after Grim, kind of lately. I do kind of wonder about them a little bit. I think they still have enough to get through the stage, but 3-0, I'm not really sure. Then you have Bait, who they've only played one LAN. That was their third at the Mesa Nomadic Masters, where they did beat Hans, GG Hao, and Chinggis Warriors, but they lost to Big twice, which is kind of rough. They won the most recent season of ECL and came second at that CTT Global Finals to Heroic, so they've been doing really well online. They always have some talented players, and I think they're certainly a candidate next to someone like Cloud9 for this. And then I think of Bet Boom as well here, or a BB team, or whatever the heck you want to call them, just because while they haven't had any LAN, they kicked off the year really hot online whenever they were beating like Mouse Sports, and I can't remember who else it was, and kind of that Blast Bounty situation. I think it was Mouse and Furia. And they've had some other good wins online as well. The issue is that they've also lost to some teams you never expect them to. So they've been a little bit hit or miss for me, but they have a lot of experienced players and a lot of talent. So I really feel like they're a candidate here. But if I had to guess who I think would do it, I also kind of want to mention Ty Lue here actually as well. We can talk a little bit about Ty Lue. Ty Lue actually is just dominating the region right now, if we're honest, and they do have some very talented players. So, I mean, just for example, they've won a couple of local regional LANs. It's like that XSE Power or Pro League. Then they had that Hero Esports event where they're beating Rare Atom. They're beating, Lin Vision. They're beating FlyQuest multiple times. They made it past stage 1 at EPL with some wins over 3D Max, Aurora, and FlyQuest. They only lost out to Spirit, Navi, and Gamer Legion in that next stage. They've been very solid online. Solid fraggers. I think that they have a chance to be a 3-0 team as well. So it's tough. It can only be one, right? It can only be one other team. And I think I really think it could be Ty Lue. I really do. They're the team I'm actually most confident in of the teams I've just named because of the roster situation with Complexity and because Bait just hasn't done much on LAN, to be honest, and then BB hasn't really played any LAN with their current 5, but they had loads of experience. So I'll go... Fuck it, I'm going Ty Lue. I'm going Ty Lue. It's crazy. They're probably going to go 3-1 or 3-2. I'm going to go ahead and admit it, but I'm going to take them. Then I'll go ahead and kind of put these other teams in here that I was talking about that I think were certainly solid teams. I think that they're all really likely to make it through. I figured I'd go ahead and just drop them in there since we've already talked about them. Now, as far as 0-3, the worst, let's get those going too, okay? I know a lot of people are sticking Legacy here. I've seen a lot of people doing that. They're obviously coming in last minute with the whole situation with Bestia, but Legacy is actually not that bad. I feel like people are sleeping on them a little bit. I'm not saying they're definitely going to advance, but I don't think that they are 0-3 material like some people are saying. Yes, they kind of got dumpstered at Dallas and Bucharest, but we did see them beat Team Liquid at Bucharest, and they took some maps off of Gamer Legion and Astralis. They've also played some good teams close like Aurora and Gamer Legion. Even at Dallas, they had a close map against Vitality. Took 3D Max to all 3 maps. Played them close in general. I feel like the eye test shows that they have some decent tactics. And I think they have some talent with Dumao and Lux as the aggressive rifers of the team. I think Lux's IGLing so far on this team has looked pretty good. I think Sadson could be kind of an upcoming opper. Lado, also a pretty stable player for this team. So I actually don't think Legacy is nearly in jeopardy of going 0-3 like some people are saying. Just wanted to get that out the gate. Now, as far as candidates who I think are the best to do it, to go 0-3, I mean, Metasport is certainly one of them. I think the fact that they don't have any LAN with the full 5, that their online record is very shaky. I think some of their players have honestly had some struggles. They just generally haven't looked that great. The only online event where I feel like they did really well was when they almost made Astana. They lost to NIP in the grand finals of that qualifier. So just that qualifier performance alone from Metasport keeps them out of the O3 for me. Someone like OG, I feel like they've been doing well enough online with this 5 to where they're not going to be an O3 candidate either. I'm kind of going in rankings, by the way. Because, like, OG's kind of ranked somewhere between 40th and 45th in the world. Someone like Metasports, like somewhere between 44 and 60, depending on whether you're going by Valve or HLTV. Then you have a team like Fluxo. This is one of the teams I do think is going to go 0-3. I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to go ahead and throw Fluxo in there. They have no land with their current 5. They've played 3 smaller lands with kind of 4 of their players, Art, Key, Zevi, and Pyria Jr. But outside of Zevi being a solid opper online for them, the rest are an entire mixed bag. It looks like a retirement home for people like Art and Key, who struggled on higher-end Brazilian teams. And while they have had some success in ECL in South America, it was over smaller South American teams like Solid and Sharks and Crew. Not any like big-name Brazilian teams or big-name South American teams. Yeah, they did beat Audic, was a team that qualified for Astana. But, and yes, they did win the MRQ over Legacy and Bestia. But I just don't see them doing very well here. I don't think they have it. I'm going to go ahead and put them in there. As far as who else will join them, I know a lot of people are saying Imperial. They're not ranked very well either. But I think Noe and Decenti are actually pretty solid. I think Try's a solid opper. Che obviously just joined the team in place of Phelps this year. They've only played a couple lands at the current 5, and both of them were weird because they came dead last in Blast Lisbon, but then they won that Fire League event in Buenos Aires over Sharks and 9Z. And then when they played Blast Lisbon, they played against G2 and Team Liquid, like 2 higher-end teams for the team that they are. Saw them do well in the MRQ. They were, again, also a team that had a chance to go to Astana. They lost to Audic in the BO5 Grand Finals in that qualifier after beating Red Canids and Crew and Flamingo. Generally do well online, so I don't think that they're actually O3 material for me. Namiga, I don't think they're O3 material to me, even though they haven't really done a whole hell of a lot. They did win like 1 smaller LAN, so I'll give them credit for that. Chinggis Warriors, I think, is the other one I'm going to go for here. And really the reason for this is that Coolest just joined the team on loan a little over a month ago, and is already their best player by a good margin. The core 3 have played some smaller lands together since 2024, but just nothing really that big. They came 4th at Mesa, losing to Heroic and Bait. Their only wins are over Eruption and Sol. Very hit or miss online. Fragging power outside of Coolest is a big question mark. Their ranking isn't that great. I just don't really see a whole lot coming from them, so I'm going to go ahead and put them there. So now we basically just have to come up with 3 more teams that we want to put in the advanced column. And I'm trying to think here who I like. I'm kind of doing this on the fly. Wild card, if we're just going in the order of the teams that we have left kind of sitting here in front of us, I do like wild card. They actually had a pretty cool run at Shanghai last year. I do think some of their players are pretty solid. I do respect, Stanislaus and IGL. But if I'm honest, they didn't do that well at Blast Rivals, losing the Vitality. They beat Pain. Then they lost to Spirit, which, I mean, again, they're losing the top 5 teams in the world there, so I can't harp on too much for that. When they played the CCT Global Finals online in Europe, they lost to Big and BB and Heroic, so they're losing to some of the stronger end teams in this stage online recently. Now, they did qualify for the MRQ over, like, Energy and Marsborn, so a team like Energy, they looked better than online. They missed out for Astana after losing the semis to M80. They missed out on Bucharest by losing to Complexity. Then when they played at Cluj-Napoca for PGL, they did get a win over Made in Brazil, and they had some close games against Mongols, and they had some close games against VP, and they took a map off of Big, but they still didn't really do a whole hell of a lot. So I'm just a little bit concerned by lack of, like, strong online play, or offline play, I should say. When it comes to someone like, OG, again, I just don't know that much about them. I know Crizin seems like a decent IGL. A couple of their guys are good. They just picked up Nikodos. He's a solid player. They're doing pretty well online lately, beating some decent teams. So I think they definitely could be in the mix. Namiga is a tough one for me, just because when I look at them, even though I know they've played a few lands, they did okay at stage 1 of EPL and they beat Mind Freak and Heroic. But then they lost to Made Brazil Energy and Pain. The Shanghai European RMR, they, kind of lost teams she expected them to lose to be honest with you. Then they won a smaller LAN over teams like Fluxo and Fnatic and that unpaid mixed team that had like Jacob Nexa and Cypher and all that on that. Some decent online play. So I think I'll put OG here. I do kind of like them. All right. I've been jibber-jabbering a lot here. I think I'll go Namiga. I think I'll go OG. And then it gets tough, because I think Wildcard I like on NA soil. But there's also been rumors of roster moves happening here where they might be picking up Peeping, so I don't know if there's some discontent going on there. And again, they've been a little bit shaky lately, even in some online qualifiers in North America. Losing out to like M80 and Complexity. And I know that, M80 is not even in this stage, but I just haven't seen I'm a little bit scared for them. I think they could squeak through, but they're definitely not a 3-0 team for me. And I just think some of these other guys just have a little bit more. Imperial, don't know that I trust them that much, honestly. NRG, I just don't trust right now. FlyQuest, I just don't trust because Netic is so new, and even though Regalia's been really good, I just don't know what else to expect from them. I think Legacy could actually sneak through. I really do. I think people are sleeping on this team really hard. I just want to put that one out there. I'm not going to pick them, but I think it's very possible that they could actually sneak through here. I think there's also a possibility Imperial could even sneak through here. I think people might be sleeping on them a little bit. They have a couple of talented players on their team. But if I'm going to pick one here, I think I'll trust Wildcard for the experience. I don't feel super comfortable about this, honestly. I really do think Imperial or Legacy could be one of the teams that squeak through here. Obviously, FlyQuest has a lot of experience on their players, but they just struggle offline all the time outside of their region, it feels like. And I just feel like Netic is too new. Ends is just getting back into IGLing. Regali feels like their only super consistent strong fragger right now. So I'm a little bit concerned about them. And yeah, I don't know. This is the best I can come up with, but that is going to be it. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you on the next one.